Hello, and welcome back to the Liz Experiment YouTube channel. This is the channel where I share field notes from my journey towards architecting my best life. And I'm recording this week's video, from Bend, Oregon. You'll recall last week I was in Oakland, still the Oakland mountains, and now I've driven up to snowy Bend. Yes, I'm looking out the window right now and it's just feet of snow which have yet to melt. But hopefully that will happen before you know it. So this week was a big week because my birthday was this week, but also because it was a transition week, obviously from one location to another. And there were several points that I was focusing on this week. But first, I forgot to tell you what I was doing here in Bend. So I'm here in Bend, house sitting for a lovely border collie named Lily, who is fast becoming one of my favorite friends. She's currently sleeping on the couch, and I kind of want to call her over. Maybe I'll do this towards the end of the video, because once I call her over, she's not going to want to go back on the couch. And then instead of watching me, you're going to be watching her for the whole thing. She's just me dancing here. And it's a whole thing. Trust me. So anyway, let's get back to this week's points, field notes from this week's journey towards architecting my best life. So first and foremost, I think I mentioned this last week, but one of the big things I started working on was going hard at self. And so one of the themes that I recognized from this week's work was, what are the distractions? And there are so many, but what are some main distractions that I use to avoid going hard at myself? And one of the first ways this came up was something that in my notes here, I've titled the Poland decision. So I was deciding between if I should go to Warsaw, Poland to house sit for a dear friend, or the dates just so happen to be the same dates that the people in Oakland whose house I just left needed a sitter. And I was torn over this decision. And then as I was discussing it with my business partner, Diana, and dear friend, I said the words, and I have them written here. It doesn't matter either way about travel, because I'm pet sitting for both of them. So I can't travel when I'm watching a pet anyway. And that's when it clicked for me, oh, this decision actually doesn't matter. You're using this selection process, this decision process, as the distraction from self. So that was a really big way that I saw I was distracting myself this week. The other was when I was driving. So I drove up here to Bend I started the drive on March 11th, which I think was Monday. And so along the trip, I was constantly checking in about work things. And this is something I've known for a while, but it was just another great reminder, me thinking that work has to be work, it has to be super challenging. It has to take all of my energy. That's a distraction from self, 100%. And related to that, what happened, this was yesterday. So today I'm recording this on a Thursday. So this happened, that was Monday. This happened yesterday, which was Wednesday. We found out that someone stole our business name. The exact same business name. But at first we didn't know if we were the ones who were late to the game or if they were. And we had this upheaval about what to do about it. And as I was thinking it through, I realized this upheaval, this feeling, this drama is the distraction. The point is that this is beyond our control at this point, unless there's something we actually did wrong. But we did the legwork, So have confidence in that and stay focused. Stay focused on self. And part of going hard at myself is understanding all my relationships, including business relationships. So I'm using this random business name stealer to distract myself from the work that I'm here to do. So those were some of the ways I distracted myself from myself this week. The second part of that was, I was just about to say, the second part of that is the first part of that, but Anyway, so going hard at self, not being distracted from self. So I continued to read this book called Start Here, and I'll provide a link to that in the discussion or in the comments or the about section. I don't know what it's called on YouTube, but you get you get my drift. So I was reading that book, and here I have they had like this a whole bunch of assessments around what is your purpose. And for me, my life purpose, I found out, was a striver, which means I like to strive for goals and I need to be competitive and that sort of thing. And then you go about doing assessments about what is your method towards fulfilling that purpose. And for me, my method was participating. So participating in events or experiences or teams or that sort of thing. And then you write this mighty mission statement, combining those things and some additional strengths, which you do another assessment about. My strengths, I realized, were focus, discipline, I think achieving, and communication and responsibility. So we get through all of this. I get through all of these things, and it's like, you could be good in the military. And I'm like, really? Like, that sucks. Not that the military is awesome. It's more, I didn't always, that assumption or that relation helped me see like, oh, you are actually a really rigid person, Liz. Not all people in the military are super rigid. Nothing against the military. Don't send me any hate mail. And if you do, throw like $50 in there and it'll be fine. Hate me all you want. But yeah, so I'm like, man, I don't know. Am I a striver like by nature? Or is this the persona I've created to protect myself from just the world around me that maybe doesn't jive with me? You know, like maybe I became a striver because that's how I survived in the world in which I was, in the environment in which I was born. And I'm using these strong words, and I would have survived nonetheless. I was loved. I was born in a safe place. I'm very privileged and blessed and all of those things. But I'm talking environmentally and personality-wise, did I have to become somebody else? And you know what? I'm still working on that. I don't know that. I don't know the answer. But what I did learn, and what I have known for a while, but what I was reminded of, is it's about accepting who I am today. Because if I keep resisting who I built, instead of accepting it and saying, okay, this is who I am, that's okay, I'm never going to get through the resistance, like that step of getting through the resistance to understanding who I truly am. And I think that process is, you could do all the assessments you want and I think those are important too. But that process of letting go of the resistance of who you are today, just not trying to say who I want to be, who I think I am, who you are, what your strengths are, what your method is, what your purpose is now, that can always shift as you take away the resistance and start to really focus on how you feel and how present you are in each moment. Which brings me to my third point, which is it was my birthday this week. And so as I was driving back to, it's back, like, but it was. As I was driving into Oregon, I drove into Oregon the day before my birthday. I woke up, I was in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and it didn't feel like my birthday. We'll get to that in a second. But I also realized at this point how much I love the Pacific Northwest, because I went to a coffee shop that had amazing single blend organic coffee with this amazing oatmeal packed with all this nutrition. And my entire breakfast cost me $5. It was very healthy. And everybody is so nice here. And they're nice at most of the places I've been. But this whole combination, being in Bend especially, it's something I really, really have missed, being in the Pacific Northwest. The thing that I don't miss is the lack of diversity. So it's a very whitewashed part of the country. And that's not something I necessarily jive with. I don't drive with. It's not, I don't necessarily, I don't. I would like to see more diversity and that sort of thing. But otherwise, most of the values align. But anyway, back to the birthday story. So it was my birthday and I'm driving through Oregon and I'm like, God, it doesn't feel like my birthday at all. And I started reflecting on that. And I have a dear friend who talked about this for a long time, how he doesn't celebrate his birthday, especially. He's just like, it's just not a big deal. And what I realized, both hearing him talk over the years, but also experiencing this myself, is that birthdays in a way are like funerals in that they're not necessarily for the person who's being remembered or celebrated. They're for the people around them to connect or show love or show remembrance or respect or whatever. Because the more present I'm becoming, the more present I'm becoming in each day, the less special a birthday feels, because it's a day and every moment is special in its own way. It used to be like it was a special day because it was my birthday. But I realized how, for me, that was very false. And it's not bad if you just love your birthday, but it's more just I recognize that and I started to accept it. Back to point number 2, more about who I am. What else do I have here? Leaving a place is hard. Yes. So I left Oakland on Sunday. I think so. Yeah. And that was super hard. And before I left, I was lucky enough to see the homeowners again. They came back from New Zealand, and one of them asked me, like, this has got to be really hard for you because, one, you're leaving a place, you've just become comfortable, and we love you, and I loved them. I loved them, and I loved Faye, and you guys met Faye. But then I have to go into another place and start the dance all over again, which is, it is very hard. I have not reconciled how to handle leaving people and leaving pets. I've reflected a lot on, like, what's the purpose of that 3 weeks? Like, when I got here on my birthday, the homeowners here in Bend were so nice, and Lily, the dog, who I hope you guys get to see, is so great, and they took me out to birthday dinner, and we just started to have this really great connection. And then they left the next morning, and I didn't see them again, And we're in touch over WhatsApp, and I'm giving them updates and stuff, but I will probably never see these people again. And I start to wonder, like, what's the point? And that is emotionally trying. And I don't know if any of you have had these types of moments in your life. And if you have, I'd love to hear how you handle them. And I think I've said this before, like, please help me, give me advice, because I actually don't know what I'm doing. But I should say that's untrue, because this Saturday, the past Saturday, I had my birthday reading with my medical intuitive guide counselor, awesome woman named Suzette, who I'll put a link to her services in the page. What the fuck is it called? It's not called the show notes. Sorry, explicit. What the F is it called? It's not the show notes. It's the comments or something, right? The description. I'll put a link to her site in the description. But anyway, I always have a reading with her right around my birthday, and I was telling her how along this journey I'm just starting to feel really directionless, and like I'm just going from place to place, and I'm meeting people, and that's great, and I'm having these great interactions, and then I'm leaving. And she was like, the traveling is the point of what you're doing. She was explaining how, like, cosmically, woo-woo alert, it's going to get a little cosmic, a little occult, whatever, but trust me, it makes sense. She's energetically, you're clearing a lot of karma you've built up over time. You're just kind of like meeting people that you're supposed to meet. And once you do, you've kind of unlocked a part of yourself. And then you go forward to the next event. She said a lot of people, it takes them a long time to do this in their life because they're stuck in one place, whether it's a physical place, a job, a relationship, what have you. And that doesn't mean if any of those things that you have are bad. It doesn't mean that every person that's in one place is stuck. That's not what I'm saying. What she was explaining is, for me, the travel is allowing me to expedite getting unstuck so that I can move into what it is I really want to do. And I'm expediting that by meeting people and gathering their ideas and understanding more about myself and understanding more about animals and people and life in general. And as I do that and I start to calm for that over the years, over a year or two, I'll start to say, okay, this is why I'm here and this is what I want to be doing. And so that was really exciting to hear. Another thing that is to note is that I was explaining how pet sitting is great, but as I mentioned earlier, when I'm sitting for a pet, I can't really travel, and I do that for work, and I expect I'll be doing that more and more. And so she was saying that I should tell my network that I'm available for house sits without pets. So if somebody's going away on an extended trip and they need somebody to watch their home, water their plants, get their mail, make sure nobody's doing anything to their house, any of that sort of thing, I'm available. And those would be instances where I could travel for a day or two for work and it wouldn't be a problem. So if you know anybody who's looking for a house sitter, please reach out. My contact information will be in the description. Now, I'm looking at my notes, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to share with you this week. The only thing is that, again, I'm happy to be back in the Pacific Northwest. Despite the 3 feet of snow, people are still out running and walking and paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboarding down the river in 30-degree weather. And as crazy as that is to me and how I'd never do it, it was just great. It is great to be in a city like Bend where all the dogs are off leash and people are just calm. And, this morning I decided, you know what, Liz, you need to get out of the house more. Like, you're a remote worker who doesn't take enough time to exploit that schedule, that flexibility. And so this morning, before I started work, Lily and I walked a mile down to one of the coffee shops, and pretty much most of the way are open parks where people are walking with their dogs off leash, and it's just along the river, and it's this beautiful scenery, and it was just a lovely morning. And I got a cup of coffee while she waited outside, and I walked back through this beautiful nature with my cup of coffee, and I just was able to go hard at myself on that walk and just be myself. And so I think that's a large part. I think that brings it all together, what was happening this past week. It was my birthday. I got rid of a lot of the old ways that I used to celebrate turning a new age, just internally, and I'm bringing on new ones. I recognized a lot of the ways that I was distracting myself from myself, and I continued to go hard at myself. And I heard some messages from the universe telling me that I'm not directionless, and that's really, I still need that external validation at this point. So I think that's it for this week. Please let me know if you like this video. Also, please let me know if you need a house sitter. And if you have something to share about your own journey towards architecting your best life, I would love to hear it in the comments. I'm dying to know more about just how other people are navigating this thing we call life. Lastly, if you want to stay up to date, please subscribe below. I promise I'm not going to be, creating a lot of videos that are going to ping you all the time, unless you want that, and then let me know. So that's all for this week. Next week, I promise as well that I will try to get Lily on camera. But until then, thanks for watching.